On today's episode of the Glue Guys, wow, Brian, the Nets won a game, an important game for playoff standings. As sad as it is, the Nets are now on top of Mount 500. How exciting. What a great season.
Huge.
We're going to talk about that Nets Hornets game.
Talk a little hoops.
And then Sixers Nets preview. All the emotions, all the feels.
Love it.
Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike Harrison. O'Brien. Check us out on Twitter at BK Glue Guys, Netsdaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself behind the paywall at theathletic.com/glue guys, a subsidiary of the New York Times. Brad.
Michael.
The Nets
The
Nets are back.
Hey, we got to win, Mike. We won one.
a big dub, a big fat dub. Thank God. This team is hot.
Got a
One
juicy
of the hottest
dub.
teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
How you feeling, bud? You took notes. You
I
dove in.
I
You were
stayed
in the
up
game.
late. I told you it was by candlelight. I didn't stream because I had to watch the game later. I was babysitting, Mike.
Ooh.
I had to do some babysitting. Uncle Bud was in the house, but I got back to it. Interesting game.
Hey kid, go fetch me a beer.
Yeah,
go get me.
I was chomping on a cigar.
Take a little sip off the top for me.
Exactly.
Drink all that little foam for me. Is that how?
That is how Uncle Bud
works.
rides.
Sorry.
That's how we do it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Did you watch the game? You got any hot takes? I got hot takes.
Hey, the Nets offense actually looked good.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. What's his name? It's like Steve Jones. It's like one of these he used to be an assistant coach in the NBA. Now he's very prominent on Twitter. He tweeted out, and I love this. The Nets had a lineup of Seth Curry, Kyrie, Patty Mills, Goran Dragic, and Nick Claxton.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to ride this Steve Nash experiment where he is playing James Johnson too much at times, or the lineups are wildly different from game to game, I'm here for then the good weirdness. There's good weirdness, there's bad weirdness, right? And that's good weird. Give me 4 point guards and a shot blocking, switching defense machine in Nick Claxton. It felt good. It felt right. KD didn't even feature that prominently in the game. Kyrie, 50 points on 19 shots. He was electric.
I love a little box score reading from us. It's been a while. And it actually occurred to me while I was watching the game, it's like, oh, this is sort of the team. Now we actually get to, with 17 games, somewhat with 17 games left, for better or worse. Like we're getting close, because the whole season we've been basically forced to talk about anything but basketball, because literally it was like, I guess Daron Sharp is playing 35 minutes for this team, or I don't know what, but didn't seem like that was going to be a lasting phenomenon. And it surely wasn't. So at no point during the season were we able to just talk about games in a way that meant anything towards the end of the season, when games matter most. So I was just happy I was reveling in that moment, Mike, that I could. What?
Look at this fat box score. Okay,
Yeah.
14 points for KD. He played 40 minutes still in a game where he had 7 assists, but he wasn't like a feature performer ultimately.
No.
Bruce Brown. The Bruce Brown Assance is happening.
Have you
Brian.
seen his numbers in March? I have them pulled up, Mike. I have his March
Pull him
numbers.
and tell me. You tell me
I
what's
got his
happening.
March numbers over here. His game log is it's popping right now. So in March, guess what his numbers are? Do you want to guess? I'll give it to you.
35 points, 15 rebounds, and 18 blocks.
He's averaging 15 points on 60% field goal percentage, 44.4%, no, almost 45% from the 3-point line, a blistering 80% from the free throw line, 2 steals, 4 assists, 6 rebounds. Just real rotation player kind of numbers, Mike.
How seriously can we take it?
I
We've been here with Bruce Brown before in a good way, and then I felt like this season has been a journey for him. But of recent, you said the numbers, he's looked good. He's been a valuable contributor for this
the
team.
Bruce Assance dates back to mid-February, I would say. So there's been a little bit more. I'm being misleading with only mentioning March numbers, but the second half of February is pretty dope too. So I don't know how much to read into. I would say that in all of Bruce's renaissance or whatever, I don't think he was ever sort of like last year's renaissance. I don't think he was ever filling up the stat sheet in the way that he is now, which is an important part of a true of painting your, I don't know, name a Renaissance painting here. What's a we know things, right? We're cultured guys.
The battle, I know. I'm sure there's a Renaissance painting called the Battle.
The battle. Look at us,
Apple. Famous Renaissance paintings.
Well, we
real
got
quick,
the Sistine Chapel.
Mona Lisa.
Yeah, the
Jesus,
Mona Lisa.
man.
We had
the
stuff.
Last Supper. The hits. The creation of Adam. Let's play
It's
the
just
hits.
a murderer's row of big paintings. Anyways,
But I'm gonna look up the battle.
is that a?
There is many battles
There
in
you go.
Renaissance
You weren't
paintings.
wrong.
Thank you. The Battle of San Romano.
Anyways, so he's been.
Palalo Uccello.
I can't remember a time, and I guess this dates back to last year, where he's consistently had an impact on the box score like he has. So, I mean, of all the things, Bruce is really having a moment, but there's so much else going on, Mike. I mean, like you were saying, this Goran Dragic, Patty Mills, Seth Curry lineup that they keep trotting out is pretty interesting. And by the way, Seth Curry if he's not growing on you, if he's not filling up a lot of the holes in your Joe Harris heart, I can't help you, because this, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit last week, but he's got a lot more going on than I ever realized, Mike. He's pretty crafty.
So you are, if just a Joe Harris v Seth Curry, if that was the option, a Sophie's choice for you.
I think they're
shooters.
different. They're different enough players where it's unfair to
You're
compare
Meryl
them.
Streep. Have you ever seen Sophie's Choice? I've never seen.
I actually
the movie.
never have, which is,
No.
and I always get it mixed up with Angel's Ashes, and I know that's not right. That's not what you.
I don't even know what that is.
It's tough. It's tough out there.
So, but yeah, I agree with so we'll talk about Ben Simmons later. Obviously, the Nets are about to go to Philly. Ben Simmons is going to be on the bench, but a lot of the conversation of the Nets won that trade. I think we need to see Ben Simmons play before we can determine whether they did. But Seth Curry is a rare piece to get in a superstar trade. He's a cheap player. I think he's making only $8 million a year this year and next. Mm-hmm. He can handle the ball. He isn't as bad on defense as I feared. Dude, I think he's a little bit better.
He can handle the heck out of the ball, Mike. He's a pretty deft. He doesn't drop his dribble, and he's he tries to get places with it. He's a good ball handler, full blown good.
He's good at basketball.
He's good.
And even though last night he wasn't fantastic, God, it's so hard to talk about this team and enjoy the moment.
I'm trying to. Can you tell them I'm trying to for those? This is the theme of the show right now.
The thing I want to say is once they get Ben Simmons inserted in the lineup, I think things will look really good.
You're already taking us in that direction, Mike. And what I'm trying to talk about is Drummond to Kyrie pin down passes. Okay, that's
Drummond. Hey, Drummond, 20 points, 14 rebounds, 6 of 10 from the free throw line, 2 blocks and a steal, and 2 assists. Our guy, the East Coast Jokic, Andre Drummond. So this is the thing that this team has been lacking for many, many years. DeAndre Jordan was never this. Jared Allen wasn't this in the same exact way. We're we love Jared Allen. The guy's an all-star. He's better than Andre Drummond, no doubt. But it's sort of the havoc that Drummond can create by being super big, being in the right place at the right time, and just yamming on people's faces is just a different style of ball than we've had from a big man. And I
would say that that's a bit of a disservice. You've painted him as a
Renaissance painting,
and
he's Mona Lisa, but he's way more attractive.
Let me dip your brush.
Mona Lisa was a hog. Can we be honest?
Your brush into this shade of gray. The 50th shade. Anyways, I think he's a pretty deft and clever player, way more than people realize. That actual pin down play that I was talking about with Kyrie Irving, he threw a lead pass that's really difficult from just hovering around the 3-point line. He actually is a legitimately if he could just rein it in a tiny bit, he could be a really, really good sort of linchpin playmaker, operating around the elbow or whatever. This kind of just brings me to what I actually can sort of see coming into being, maybe hopefully a little bit with this team. It's just the bit. It's
Be careful.
We've got.
We don't know.
We don't
We
know.
have no clue what this team's going to be.
There's a lot of putty
12
here.
games left, basically.
And we're trying to make the statue of David, right, to keep the Renaissance theme going here. And if the
that was actually pre-Renaissance.
No,
I'm just kidding.
now that we have a whole roster full of kind of savvy veterans, 2 months ago, it was like Cam Thomas and Kessler Edwards playing like all of the minutes, and we're like, what exactly is this team? And now it's like a bunch of wily vets, and we're seeing like I was saying, these pin down plays, like pocket passes, just like splitting screens and
smart
lead passes,
basketball on
just
some
like
level,
actual things happening that are efficient and fluid. And it's like, oh, that first half of basketball that we played, it's like, if that could be our brand of basketball. I see it. I could see the vision, Mike. If we can hone whatever that is and water that plant, that's a thing. Here we go.
People are mad at your takes because they're honking. They're outside with pitchforks. They're saying
it's worse
Brian,
it's worse.
Don't talk about watering. Do you know how long it takes for a plant to grow? Right.
It takes more than 17 games.
Yeah. This isn't. The Nets are like a cherry blossom. They're going to bloom very quickly and then die very fast because it's going to be beautiful. But then they're going to die, and there's going to be a tree left there without flowers.
I hate to interrupt. I'm going to go close my window. Keep that.
Yeah,
thought
you go
alive.
close the window. Yeah, because again, we're trying to have this conversation. The Nets are now 33-33 on the season, which is a record I never thought the Nets would be this season. That they would be 500 this late in the season. It's not a good indicator of who they are as a team and their fortunes maybe to be NBA champions this season, which are aspirations. But we have to live in the information we have. And I have a question for you, Brian.
Please.
The Nets lost a very close game to the Boston Celtics. Do we take that as a positive that the game was so close and the Nets obviously didn't have their full team? Or is it still a negative in the fact that, you know what, it's a game that they probably should have won, and they couldn't get it done? So is that, again, the classic sort of moral victory loss?
Yeah.
Or is it actually just like, hey, it's a loss, and we should all hate ourselves?
I think this is actually a good, like, just using these two games as sort of a microcosm of what the team is or could be. Like, in the Charlotte game, there was no point. It was like the first game where I was like, this wouldn't have been better with Harden on the floor. Like, I don't think Harden would have made this better. Whereas in the Celtics game, the way that the style of play we're doing, which is more ISO heavy and relying on star power, it's like, all right, Harden would have been a third star in this shootout. If we can facilitate the fluidity of the wiliness that I've been talking about, then that's good. But like, if we're not doing that, like we don't have the chemistry. We don't have the. I just don't like the idea of like trying to outstar people anymore. I don't think that that's where our team is right now.
I mean, it doesn't, because like even when Ben Simmons comes back, the outstarredness isn't going to happen, right? Because he's not that type of player where he is so like overwhelming he's just not an overwhelming offensive force unless he's in transition. The thing that he will do though is that like if they had Ben Simmons, everyone has said this in that Celtics game, he maybe would have done a little bit better job on Jason Tatum, right? Like the Tatum factor, sort of the star player on the other team maybe is diminished slightly because Ben Simmons can cause defensive havoc in a way that only really Kevin Durant can on this team. And it's too much. We can't ask our precious boy Kevin, our sweet, sweet Lord and Savior, to do all that amount of work. And so like that's where it's like this team is in this constant state of like, hey, they beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee. I think that was just Kyrie, right? There was no Kevin Durant in the Milwaukee Bucks game.
That's correct.
That happens, and then they lose to Miami. They lose to the Celtics. Man, this team stinks. It's awful. We get the things about how over the past 15 games, they have the same record as the Knicks, which is not ever a good comparison point.
No.
And they go down to Charlotte, a team that they're competing with for a playoff spot, which is terrifying. And Charlotte's been wonky, like they've tailed off a bit going into this game. And they beat Charlotte in a convincing way, and in a way where Charlotte was continually trying to make that comeback. Mm-hmm. And the Nets, via Kyrie Irving and his shot making. I mean, the guy, it's the Kyrie experience where he is so singular in his ability. Michael Grady tweeted out this great like sort of ground level video of him filming Kyrie on a play where Kyrie is like dribbling around three different defenders against Charlotte and gets to like a fadeaway jumper from 18 feet, and it's a swish. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's just not many dudes that can do that. Wish you would get vaccinated. Sorry to bring it up. Wish you would get vaccinated because we still don't know if he'll play at home.
Can we
Brian?
talk about whenever you tweet about this kind of stuff? It's just a real anthropological journey, Mike. And my favorite one, the new refrain that I keep seeing is you'll tweet something and it'll be like, looks like you guys are wrong. You didn't need to get vaccinated because he's playing amazing out there. And it's like, guys, we never said he wasn't going to be good, you buttholes. We said he should play more. He needs to play more. There is no data
that shows the vaccine diminishes your basketball ability.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess maybe their point is like, hey, he's already had COVID and he's still fine. But there's also other guys who, like Rudy Gobert, couldn't taste for a year.
Dude, I told you I ate a lemon. I ate a whole lemon when I had it by itself.
So jealous.
And finish it off with some anchovies. I ate durian. I ate a durian candy. Nothing. Didn't faze me. True.
I know. It's just so, and I had made the joke on Twitter and, it's a basic joke, but like, what if Kyrie had just said, like, hey, like he had said it in the post-game press conference, hey guys, I got to go. I'm getting the vaccine appointment at 9 a.m. and just left. The firestorm of joy, I guess it would have created for us.
There was a couple of people who reacted to that being like, that would actually piss me off because, then it would be all a waste, that is the number one example of what they call the sunk cost fallacy, when you've invested so much in a bad strategy that you can't even abandon it because you should abandon it as soon as possible. It's bad. Don't do it.
God.
Anyways, we're trying to bring it back. Take a break.
Yeah, let's do this. Quick break. Coming back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Hornets game, and then we're going to transition to something Kevin Durant said about James Harden that should make Brian feel really proud of himself.
Oh, great.
And we're back, Brian. Last point. Not last. I mean, we could do a couple more.
What if I have a point?
Yeah, I don't want to be so presumptuous that my statement will close this argument.
Good.
So in this game, LaMarcus Aldridge was out. He's out with a hip injury. He's out for the next 2 games. We're out for this one and the next one against Philly. I don't know we don't know. Obviously, he's had hip issues before in the past. I don't know what his status is going to be going forward. I hope that this doesn't turn into a Joe Harris situation. Obviously, I do believe this. If you're going to say who was the most consistent net all year, it's pretty much LaMarcus Aldridge. Kyrie's completely eliminated, of course. KD was out with the MCL. Mm-hmm. Harden is disqualified. And then from there, it's like Patty Mills and LaMarcus Aldridge, right? And Joe Harris, of course, not here. LaMarcus has kind of kept this team afloat. And I love what he could do in the playoffs in terms of just his shot making. Like when the defense is focusing even more on Durant and Kyrie, if they're allowed to play together ever again, consistently, guys like LaMarcus Aldridge will be left open. And if he's hitting, if he's 7 for 10 from mid-range, that's going to be a nice little bucket for them. But in this game against the Hornets, it was Drummond and it was Nick Claxton. Those are your bigs. I don't hate that those are my bigs. I very much like Drummond. And I do like this Nick Claxton experience. He is a microcosm of the Nets where he is there. He's exciting. He's gone. He is hurt. He has a mysterious disease. He comes back. He's out of shape. He plays himself into shape. He almost gets traded. He doesn't get traded. And now we're stuck here and he's getting 20 minutes a game. He didn't play that great against Charlotte. His court awareness, particularly on offense, is not good.
Yeah.
He's a developing player. But my fear with this team, let's say everything is put together. Defensively, though, there's still some deficiencies. Ben Simmons will help. Nick Claxton solves a lot of problems defensively, athleticism, switching, and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't want to banish LaMarcus, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that Nick Claxton's getting some minutes right now and sort of expanding his game.
No,
hopefully.
I think it's also a reflection of just trying to play more up tempo. I mean, love LaMarcus, but he does take a second to get going. It's not exactly a high energy kind of bro. And we
haven't noticed.
And we do need to get Claxton into like trying to evolve this Pokemon into what he's going to be is, top. This was supposed to be the Nick Claxton.
I'm now Googling Pokemon and gonna find the perfect Pokemon. I just typed in Googling. Oh my God,
Nice.
I'm losing my mind.
Even you got babies coming out of your ears. And Bruce Brown has really sort of like stole as of late the narrative of like most improved sort of rotation, maybe not rotation player. But yeah, I mean, like I would love it if Nick Claxton could actually ascend to that next level, because he's still stuck in whatever transition period he's been in for the last 3 years now.
He's on a ramp. This whole team is.
True. I will say my last point, Mike. I have one last point.
Oh, hey, okay.
I have one last point. The one thing that I thought was important, one of a few things I thought was important, was the big game energy. And this is a very qualitative. This is a very like sports radio talk kind of take here. So get ready for
Love it.
But like it was a big game. This is one of like 4 games that Kyrie's going to play before the playoffs or whatever, and he had to play with the rest of the team. It had super big consequences for the play-in tournament. It's super big consequences because it's a tiebreaker. So just like it was a must-win, and they highlighted that a lot on the broadcast. And I got the sense that they could get motivated for that. Right, for that first half of basketball was exceptional. It's the best basketball I've seen on this team since last year's playoffs. And I was hopeful from it that when we actually need to win some play-in tournament games, we can flip that switch, as we've often talked about.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a great point to transition into our Sixers.
That's why I saved
Nets
it for last, Mike. How I know?
Official preview. You're so good at your job. What I'm doing right now. That sounded like I wasn't being authentic. I was. I apologize. You're so good at your job. I am trying to look up odds on BetMGM of what the Nets 76ers line is. By the way, the odds for NBA championship odds, the Nets are still actually tied with the 76ers for the 4th best odds at plus 650 on BetMGM, which if you're a Glue Guys fan, there's some promo code. I think it's like
nice.
Athletic NY, and you can get a nice little deal. And there's also like risk-free bets. We don't need the credit. We just want you guys to spend your money and gamble.
Make that money. Make it rain.
Make that money. These odds probably need to be updated because right now the Warriors are tied for the best odds in the NBA with the Suns, and the Warriors are not looking good. There's some real value out there to be had. Celtics plus 1,600. Celtics I was impressed by the Celtics watching that game.
Has a car alarm ever protected a car from getting stolen, or is it only for ruining podcasts? Is that the sole?
Have you ever been on the street in the car with the car alarm is going off and you're like, that car has been stolen, let me call the cops? Like no one does that. No. And also once you get in the car, you usually can figure out a way to
if somebody is jacking a car and the car I just think like, oh, that guy owns his car and he's breaking into his own car because he forgot his keys. That's where I go with it.
76ers Nets odds real quick. Let me pop that up. Money line, blah blah blah, betting line, because I want to know like what the consensus is in Jesus. This can't be for this game. I'm done. I'm trying to find odds, but basically, I want to ask you this: what's your just emotion about what the game, how the game is going to play out? Not like, and we'll get into the fan reaction and all that stuff, but what is your feeling of like how the game may actually develop in front of our eyes? Is this going to be a competitive game where we talk about, you say in the Hornets game, it felt like the Nets, brought a level of competitiveness that we haven't seen recently. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are 2 competitive SOBs. They'll have their boy Ben Simmons on the bench for that game. Do you think the Nets are going to elevate their play, or it's going to be an overwhelming sense of emotion in the Wells Fargo Arena or whatever it's called in Philly,
whatever
that it's just like that Harden's going to be throwing alley-oops to Joel Embiid, and we're like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to.
This is a funny question. Like, what do you like? It's like, do you think it's gonna suck or do you think it's gonna be awesome? Sort of the question.
It's basically my feeling going into every franchise movie at this point.
Dude, it's gonna be awesome. Come on, it's gonna be a vibe. It's gonna be great. We'll watch it on the Dirty Stream, and you get there by going to the Discord, which you get there by clicking the link in the YouTube description or the Twitter bio. How about that?
Good.
I turned that into a little promo for us.
You did.
Yeah, I mean, I am worried about it because I think our team is in a weird place right now in its evolution. Always in a state of evolution. So it could go either way, Mike. But I'm hopeful based on this last game. I mean, again, the big game energy take is on the table. That's the stakes here. Because if they poop the bed, then I'm taking it off. I'm taking it right back off the table, Mike.
It's an interesting matchup at this point because the Nets do have Drummond. LaMarcus Aldridge won't be there. And I actually think Aldridge has like the type of guy that he could maybe defend a little bit as Embiid just because of the size element. Embiid's of course like a freak of nature. He is mobile, but he's not running all around the floor like a tall JJ Redick, right? Like so LaMarcus could have been effective, and Nick Claxton, I have very little hope that he's going to be able to body Joel Embiid. But like how the Nets are going to try to defend Harden. I mean, they're going to put Bruce Brown on him, I think.
Oh yeah.
And I think Bruce is the type of guy who is up for that, right? Like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's a friend of the show. All friends of the show have chips on their shoulders.
True.
Doritos, we have Takis, Fritos.
Takis. Yeah, have you tried the blue Takis? Those ones.
No,
yeah.
blue Takis? I'm Googling that too.
Flavorless but very hot. The best.
What does that mean?
The best of both worlds.
They have no flavor?
They're imperceptibly like you can't really tell. Like, is it flavored? I can't tell. Sometimes where it's so flavor blasted that it's almost like crosses the threshold, and you're like, is there a flavor at all? I couldn't tell.
It ascends to a higher plane.
Yeah.
Blue any food is always a risky, unless it's a blueberry, like a blue soda, a blue like a blue drink, like a curacao. Isn't that a cocktail? Like a cocktail?
I think it's great. I mean, in candy, you're in good shape. A blue raspberry is or whatever. Like that.
It tastes good, but like it's a terrifying shade, and it feels like the most sort of engineered shade of any of the candy. But anyways, back to the Nets. I'm just very intrigued about how the Nets are going to match that intensity. The guys I'm going to be looking towards are not even Kevin Durant and Kyrie. I am looking at like Bruce Brown, Seth Curry. Like, what is Seth Curry's emotions going into the game? Does he feel a chip on his own shoulder and wanting to prove Philly wrong for like, why would you put me in the trade? Patty Mills is the type of player who like senses the moment and maybe has like a really great game. We haven't had a really strong Patty Mills game in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look back at his game logs. He's kind of like, he's been off and on. Obviously, his role has shifted. I'm excited.
Oh.
I am also fearful.
Look at Mike. Getting all excited.
And I have a sense that it could be ugly because Harden does this thing. He did it here in Brooklyn. Is that when he arrived at this new place, he arrived in Brooklyn. He had a great sense of energy, an esprit de corps, right? Isn't that like whatever? Anyways,
I don't know that I've ever heard.
It's like an award I used to win in band, esprit de corps. It's like the best, happiest band decor.
The happiest band award?
Yeah, Supreme Decor.
Oh my god.
No, that's just actually.
What kind of 8th place trophies are you? Or the
Ryan, you're talking to a guy who always won a most improved at every camp,
Hey.
which means you're starting from the bottom.
Rise and grind.
I'm the Drake of basketball camps. So I just worry about that game. And I think it's an important game because if they lose that game in a really ugly way, it becomes this situation of the narrative starts to really even build up even more of like the Nets aren't it this year. And I'm not really even holding out hope that they're going to win a championship because I just think this team is here's like the big picture take. There's just too much noise around this team this year. There's too much disconnect for them to be a championship team. But if they get blown out in Philly, it's just going to be ugly. And I'm not going to want to watch ESPN or whatever First Take for the next few years. But you're excited.
I mean, I'll be excited until I see if it starts to suck. Then yeah, I mean, this is the nature of your question is funny because if it sucks, it will suck for sure. That's true.
What do you make of Ben Simmons sitting on the bench? Does that make you happy?
It's an interesting choice. A a bold choice. I like it. It's like exposure therapy. I mean, it's like CBT. You know, he's going right back into the belly of the beast. I don't know if you should. Yeah, I'm into it. I'm just fully into it. You know, like let's embrace this. Let's get a little bit antagonistic if we can.
Yeah, I mean it's a very bold choice because he very easily could have skipped the game. This is a guy with mental health issues that he's talked about, he's working through, and it would suck to be in an arena of 20,000 people who all hate you, right? Like I think we can all not relate, but we all understand that would suck. Like I wouldn't want to be in a room with one person that dislikes me. 20,000 people from Philadelphia who are a cranky bunch. Would not be fun, but he's doing it, and I think it's a really good sign for this team that he's putting himself out there. Like ultimately, there's so much confusion over what is Ben Simmons doing? This back issue, is it a back issue? Like we have no clarity on like when he's going to play for the team, even though we're starting to get a little bit more information. Him showing up at least leads to the thought like, oh, okay, at least he's not completely going away from the team again, and he has some interest in being here, right? I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting part of the soap opera. Good choice. I like it.
Before we go,
okay.
Kevin Durant said this about James Harden last night after the Hornets game. Kevin Durant was asked, "Do you think there's anything you guys could have done or said differently to change Harden's mind and make him want to stay long term?" This is what Kevin Durant had to say. No, I mean, when you look at it, try to look at it from his perspective. You look up, Kai's not playing, then I'm injured. He hasn't won a championship before. He has not. So he's 32 years old, I guess, looking at himself, wanted to make a decision to get on a team that can get him to that, contending, being one of the last teams standing. So you look at it from his perspective, you just say it is what it is. You can't really control how somebody feels when they're thinking like that. And then he talks a little bit more.
Yeah.
It sounds like you. It sounds like Kevin Durant listens to this podcast and agrees exactly with how you agree of how everything went down.
Yeah.
That kind of is like Kyrie's not playing. Like, hey, he confirmed it's a big factor.
Well, can I tell you what actually happened? So I took the initiative on this, Mike, and I went out and I made a contraption that you can infiltrate someone's dreams while they're sleeping. And one of the cool things you can do once you're inside of someone's dreams is you can plant a seed of an idea that's actually yours, but then when they wake up, they're like, I had a crazy dream where I had an idea, and they think it's their idea. That's what happened.
Is there a movie about that?
Sorry, my wife is letting my cat into the room right while I was doing that, and it was distracting. Hey, say hi, Magneto. Wow. Okay.
Hey, Magneto.
Anyways, yeah, I feel incredibly vindicated. I mean, I feel like that's the only take, really. I mean, I don't feel especially special for it. Did everyone have that take? I don't know. Or I guess some people were just like, nope, like Harden is a bad man, and he has no impulse control, and he wants to go to Philly because of cheesesteaks or something dumb. I don't know.
Yeah, that's my take. That's a nice, thorough analysis of my take. And you by Kevin Durant saying that, I mean, like that's a very honest answer. He answered the question of why James Harden didn't want to be here.
Yeah,
that answers it. He didn't have to say basically like Kyrie's not playing, then I'm injured, and he looked for a better situation to win a championship. Kevin Durant definitively answered what happened, and it was the exact same thing that you've been saying for weeks now. I still think James Harden, if I'm James Harden, I would still rather be on the Nets with a higher ceiling of like Kyrie's vaccination thing gets figured out or whatever, and Kevin Durant's back. I would have done that, but he wants to be in Philly, and I hate him.
I think this speaks more to a larger trend of, we put out things into the news media ecosystem, coastal media elites that we are, and it seems to me that Nets players and personnel are commenting on that stuff directly. Mike, have you noticed that? Have you thought about that?
No, I haven't noticed that. The fact that on our podcast we directly said how the Nets have a bad media strategy about hiding and not answering questions about Ben Simmons, and then literally a day later, Sean Marks had a thorough interview with Yes, where he answered every single question that we said that he wasn't answering. I haven't noticed.
You didn't.
Me, I don't live in that world. I really focus. I got the blinders on. I don't really care about what other people do. You know, it's not me. It's not my thing. I'm not like a psychopath and really
with huge grudges.
Yeah, it's not my thing. Yeah. Anyways, hey, what a great show.
Hey, we did it again, Mike.
We'll talk again after the 76ers game. That's important enough to have its own special
I think so.
podcast. Is that like a post-game pod situation?
Could be. I don't know what time it tips. Probably normal time. So
yeah, they're probably starting off at midnight.
Yeah. But if not, Friday morning, we'll be around.
Thank you all for listening. Find us at BK Glue Guys on Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Look for The Glue Guys, a Brooklyn Nets show. And we are a subsidiary of the New York Times. Bye.
Bye, everybody.